A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 184th episode of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. 2.5 years back, when the pandemic had just set in and schools had closed down, we here at Notebook felt it was our duty to set up a platform for educators to connect meaningfully on discussing problems they were facing with the rising need of digital education and online learning and arrive at common solutions. Today, 184 episodes later, this platform has grown much bigger than we could have ever anticipated. All thanks to your love and support. We've discussed extremely curricular topics here like digital learning, NEP and assessment, extracurricular topics like sports and theatre, topics like school finance and management, and even evolved topics like mental health. Our today's topic is teaching the lessons of self-worth. Self-worth is something which needs the least explanation. However, it needs to be practiced appropriately. As a creation of God, all of us has this inherent value, and it is only but just to recognize our individual essence and play according to our strengths. It is only when we value ourselves, we start valuing everyone, everything around us. And hence, it is extremely important that we impart the lessons of self-worth to our children. They need to be kind, humble, generous, but all keeping their self-worth in place, which I feel is the most powerful medicine to transform ourselves into our best versions. With that, we welcome our first speaker on the topic, Mr. Philip Burrett. Mr. Burrett retired as the Deputy Headmaster from the illustrious Doon School in Dehradun after 44 years of serving in education across various institutions. Mr. Burrett served the Doon School as Housemaster, Head of Department, Dean of Activities, Dean of Students' Welfare, Deputy Headmaster, Second Master, and Acting Headmaster. With great distinction, he also carried out a visioning exercise for Doon School in the year 2011 through an in-depth study of a number of British public schools and various schools in the US. Mr. Burrett qualified as a leadership trainer at Wellington College, UK in the year 2000. He's also an athlete, an adventurer, and a naturalist. And we here at Notebook are truly privileged to have Mr. Burrett as our senior advisor. Sir, thank you so much for being here today. A very good evening, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Kagori. I hope I am audible. A very good evening to the whole team and Notebook team in Calcutta, from Achin to you, to Meghna, to Abhishek, to Shabayu. And also a very good evening to our esteemed panelists who I can see on my screen. A very good topic. I want to start with the fact that, children being younger than us and smaller than us in size, they begin life with the feeling of being unequal. They just have the feeling that the teacher knows more, the parents know more, the bigger. I've often seen adults, when they talk to little children, to getting down on their knees so that their eye level, they establish an equal eye level. Otherwise, children always feel that the adult is bigger, more powerful, cleverer. They can punish, they give us marks, and it's not an equal platform. Like Eric Byrne said, life starts off with the child saying, "I'm not okay, but you're okay." And it's easy for adults to bully and to keep kids afraid and anxious. I've seen this in schools, but real teachers and mentors, they try and build up a child's self-esteem. The ego has to be built up in children when they're young, so that it can die later on when we are adults. The problem of not building egos when they're young is that we start building egos when we are old, which is obnoxious. And, I have a young daughter who is not good at maths. And she's always very anxious when she goes to school and scared and frightened. And she has these psychosomatic stomach aches. But the other day, her teacher gave her a beautiful little sentence on her book that she was trying very hard and how proud she was. And, the teacher took pains to write a couple of lines. And what a difference it made to my daughter. She came back bubbling. She was so proud of what she had done. I've never seen how 2 or 3 lines could change a child's self-esteem overnight. It made a huge difference. I think, following Carol Dweck, I'm a great advocate of praise the effort and not the outcome. You don't praise the marks per se, but you look at the effort. And when you praise effort, you encourage children to put in more effort. Also, I think as adults, we need to model diligence, confidence, resilience ourselves. we need to show our human sides too. We need to make apologies when we make, do something wrong. We need to tell children that we don't know the answers to everything, but we'll find out and find out together. We need to show them our human side. I think focusing on the positive, focusing on what is good is much better than just harping on the negative. Parents can constantly acknowledge what children are doing good. And this builds confidence, this builds self-esteem. We are too prone to catching or pouncing upon them when they're making mistakes. See that? Shoes not put, books not covered. It's much easier to be negative. But to say nice things to children and to build up this emotional bank balance of, from which we can withdraw and sometimes reprimand them or say something negative. But by and large, I think it's our duty to find things that we can praise them for, things that they can build their self-esteem upon. I think it's also important to teach children how to take risks, take up a new hobby, face their fears, go out on that camping trip, go out rafting. Because the moment they do these things and they succeed, confidence comes oozing in. They learn to love themselves. They learn to trust their own decisions. They learn to be courageous. Another sure way to boost confidence is to encourage them in tasks that they show interest in. Make sure they follow through to completion, no matter how difficult the task is. Whether it's swimming or whether it's doing a video game or doing some coding, whatever they take up should be encouraged, and they have to be accountable for what they have taken up. I think it's also very important to build competence in children, whatever they are interested in. I would say that the more competent a child is at any area, whether it's sports or activities or drama, the better he is, the more competent he is, the more confident he is, the more he has self-esteem. And it starts from simple things like making your bed, helping with the kitchen, helping with hanging out clothes. All these little tasks done well and praised, after their completion, does a lot for a child's feeling of confidence. Also, I think primary is, how do we respect children? Are we kind to them? Do we deflate their egos? Do we put them down? Are we sarcastic? Do we see them as opposition to us in class? We need to look at the message behind the behavior. A cheeky child or an insolent child or a child who hasn't done work. It's very simple to say, oh, he's showing attitude, or he hasn't done work, or he's on the Instagram. But a child may be saying, look at me, see me, notice me. Maybe I don't know. I think we need to look at the message rather than the behavior, and not to judge people on the behavior. I think, so what I said was, we need to respect them. They need to be understood. Now, even praising children know what is fake praise. I don't think we should just go and praise for the sake of praising. If a child is spelling badly and you tell him that, oh, he's a great speller, that's not going to do any good. I think it's going to be genuine praise to build self-esteem. Because, if you're going to tell him something that is not true, he will see through that as a lie, and he won't trust you again. Also, a lot of parents say very, very inflated things to the parents. And what happens is that the child grows up a bit of an egomaniac. He thinks no end of himself, but he will discover later on, and then he comes flat. He falls flat on his face. So I think praise must be genuine and realistic. Also, I think we need to set high standards for children and don't let these standards drop. Sometimes making things too easy for children doesn't give them self-esteem. They know that you've lowered the bar. I think setting high expectations in the classroom, on the games field, it just encourages children to work that harder. And when they achieve their goals, when they cross that bar, they can then give themselves a tap on the back. And, also, I think We need to make children accountable for the promises they've made and for the tasks they've taken up. There is no getting away from making children accountable. Also, I think as parents and elders, we shouldn't rush in to help children at every little twist and fall and setback. We need to trust their own abilities, their resilience, and let them pick themselves up. Let them fall and let them pick themselves up, because they will learn from failure. They will not learn from mollycoddling and cajoling. Too many, the soft pedaling on them will not work. Sugarcoating pills don't help children. Failure teaches children. We also need not to compare them with their siblings or other children in the class. Each child is different. We cannot compare and should not compare. And of course, loving them unconditionally is a very difficult thing, but a very important thing for children. Whether they fail, whether they're not as good as anyone, whether they're bringing up the rear of the class, a child must know that he is loved and respected by the teachers, by his elders. I think we need to make them choose. We need to offer them choice, and they must choose and they must live by the choices they make. Also, these choices must be age appropriate. I think we need to tell children how to goal set. We need to, walk them through what is goal setting, and their goals must be realistic, achievable. If you set too high standards and they're failing all the time, that's a sure way of knocking out self-esteem and confidence in a child. They must learn, because nothing succeeds like success. And also, I think when we challenge children, we need to support them. You can't just leave a child and say, I want 99% marks, but do nothing about it. What are you doing as a teacher? Are we giving them extra classes? Are they giving them more time? Are they giving them new books, a workbook? So any challenge must also be supported appropriately. I think a simple thing about testing in the class. Are we testing to see what the child doesn't know, or are we testing to see what he knows? And that, if you're testing to see what he doesn't know, then as adults, we have to trap children. And there's a difference between being a policeman and being a teacher. We are not here to trap children. We are here to encourage them, see how they succeed, teach them in the test, get to know what they know and not what they don't know. I think parents can support their children to see what might be missing for them to be more effective with other people or in accomplishing their goals, rather than focusing on their weakness and faults, as I said earlier. And I think as teachers, we need to get in touch with our childhood. What was it when we were 12 and 13 and 15 years old? What was it that in our lives that made us confidence, that built self-esteem? Who was that adult, and what did that adult say? Which were the teachers who put us down, and which were the teachers who built our confidence? Go back to our childhood and find out what was it that built up our confidence, and replicate that with the children that are under our control. I did work for some time with a company called INME, which is an outdoor education company, after I retired from school. And we took children on very difficult treks and camps: rafting, rappelling, rock climbing, hardships, camping out at night, cooking their food. And I enjoyed that year with INME. It brought out another side of the teacher in me. And I think I saw children, in the 20-day camp grow overnight. They came in as timid little kids. They left as confident adults. And I think in these outdoor camps, we put together this capsule of whatever I've said today. We gave them challenges. We supported them in their challenge. We graded this challenge into more and more difficult. We made the task difficult but achievable. At the end of the day, they left with great confidence. I think if we can replicate this in our day-to-day lives, love them, challenge them, make them succeed, I think we will build confidence and resilience in our children. Thank you very much for listening to me. I look forward to Achin and what our esteemed panelists and teachers have to say. Thank you very much, Gagori, and over to you.
Thank you so much, sir, for those wonderful deliberations. As always, you have set the ball rolling for today's discussion. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker on this topic is Mr. Achin Bhattacharya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. Achin is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of England and Wales, a fellow of the ICAI, a member of CPA Australia and CPA Ireland, and a member of CIMA UK. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award, an avid reader and a passionate traveler. Achin has keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes regularly to numerous publications. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, a very good evening and over to you.
Good evening, Gauri. Am I audible?
Absolutely.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session. Now, at times, we all judge ourselves too harshly and start questioning our own all-round ability. And honestly speaking, that happens to all of us. Even legends are not immune to this phenomenon. But yes, it's very, very inspiring to know about stories of how human spirit has not only survived, but also thrived through many such conflicts and phases of self-doubt. So a few very inspiring incidents of which I would like to share here. World-renowned Italian Renaissance artist, sculptor, and architect, Michelangelo, doubted his own abilities, before he created his masterpiece, fresco painting, The Last Judgment, in the Sistine Chapel. The beginning of Michelangelo's career consisted mostly of marble sculptures, which helped spread his name throughout Italy. However, in the early 1500s, Pope Julius II asked Michelangelo to paint the ceiling of the Vatican Sistine Chapel. In response, Michelangelo refused, saying that he was a sculptor and not a painter. Eventually, he accepted Pope's request and spent 4 years painting the chapel, and the rest is history. Now, from the world of art, let us come to the world of politics. George Washington, first president of United States, experienced tremendous doubt and uncertainty before his own presidency. Before his inauguration, when he was supposed to take oath, he wrote to the Supreme Court Chief Justice at that time in US, John Rutledge, that he greatly apprehended that his own countrymen will expect too much from him. In his own words, I fear if the issue of public measure should not correspond with the sanguine expectations, they will turn the extravagant praises which they are heaping upon me at this moment into equally extravagant censures. So he had great self-doubt that if I'm not able to live up to their expectations, the very same set of people who are worshiping me will start criticizing. Now, from politics, if we come to the world of literature, Mary Ann Evans, a name not many of you are familiar with. But throughout her life, she wrote using her pen name, George Eliot. Now, even one of the most renowned authors of the 19th century faced self-doubt, especially when it came to one of the things she was best at, writing. Her pages of diary reveal, and her letter to friends are testimony to the fact about her instances of self-doubt, especially before every time she sent something to her publishers. So there's a biography which I was reading. I remember George Eliot. by Dr. Wendy S. Williams. And in the autobiography, the author writes that Eliot struggled with crippling anxiety in spite of her stature, while she was also self-conscious of her writing, going under a male pseudonym. And she suffered the rejection of her family and society, their personal issues. And it took a huge toll on her. Now, no discussion about art, painting, I guess can be complete without mentioning about Leonardo da Vinci. Yes, the moment we discuss about Leonardo, first thing that comes to our mind is Mona Lisa and the Last Supper. It was revealed in an article in New York Times that, like the rest of us, even Da Vinci experienced phases of self-doubt, procrastination, and self-esteem issues. And he was known for abandoning and many a times not finishing certain projects. And he was very hard on himself. He used to judge himself too much. And a very famous line from one of his diaries read, "Tell me if I ever did a thing." And in spite of such phases of self-doubt, what he did is there for the entire world to see. And for generations to come, he will be not only acknowledged by worship, but worshipped by art lovers. So instances like this actually goes on to show that even great men and women, legends, are vulnerable, are human like the rest of us. But yes, their mental strength, never giving up, fighting against all odds, is what has seen them through. In fact, I was reading about Abraham Lincoln too, who was known for having many doubts about being plagued with melancholy. A day after his success, and he used to often say this, that he used his depression and self-doubt as his strength. It actually made him stronger every time, because he wanted to prove a point to himself. He wanted to ensure that he passes his own judgment, and that took him to great heights. Now, in today's age, when we discuss this topic of self-worth, I think no discussion about self-worth can be completed in today's age without discussing about social media. An age of continuous selfie posts, being subject to judgment each and every moment by friends and peers. Now, undoubtedly, although social media is a menace or problem for few, but at the same time, there's no denying the fact that it's a solace for many. But it had always had a very conflicting aura to it. And if you look at the pros and cons, and if you try to weigh them, and when you see that each details of a person's life being scrutinized, featured, criticized, at times commented upon, at times condemned, we go as far as that, we often forget to look at the purpose of social media, which is to bring people together. It's a beautiful purpose, no doubt about it. But it's often seen that we see the ugly face of social media. At times, aspects like body shaming, which is so humiliating, so insulting to a human being. And at times, it does affect a person's self-esteem adversely. And it's a huge impact. At times, it brings it to an all-time low. But let me share a few instances of social media campaigns, which were very beautiful campaigns, which rallied against this particular phenomena. And as an example, say, for example, aspects like body shaming, unachievable beauty standards, which we all expected to live up to. And it advocated for self-love, self-identity, self-worth, a cause that thousands of men and women could relate to across the world. And these movements undoubtedly changed perceptions by leaps and bounds. The impact was huge, the impact was global. It brought around a seismic change. And again, that's the beauty of social media. It's a huge influence. It can bring people from all shades of society, from all parts of the world, from all stratas of life under one umbrella, and help them relate to one common cause. Now, to start with, one very famous hashtag that I remember was "I am no angel." It was started by a plus-size clothing company, Lane Brand. And this campaign was launched in 2015. It aimed at changing conventional standards of beauty as we see it, as seen commonly. Now, the campaign spread rapidly, and people from all across the world posted pictures with hashtag "I am no angel" to embrace all their beautiful quirks and imperfections, with an aim to truly redefine norms, conventional set standards. The other one, again, a very, very beautiful campaign. Hashtag was Lissy, started by a brand, wellness beauty and wellness brand called Raw Beauty. Now, this petition asked magazines, and the whole theme of this campaign was that it wanted magazines around the world, be it physical or digital, to reduce the amount of Photoshop they used on the images of men and women who were being featured. The whole objective was that these images can often very negatively impact the youth, as indirectly there's a pressure on them to adhere to unrealistic standards, unrealistic beauty standards, fitness standards. And very often teenagers, schoolgoers, they're too innocent. They don't understand that most of these pictures are photoshopped to enhance certain features. And imagine the kind of harm it can do to them. This campaign ensured that young women and men do not get influenced by society and media's definition of beautiful. And there was a series of interviews which featured a lot of celebrities, very successful people without makeup, without any kind of photo editing, without any kind of filters, with a goal of starting a global conversation about beauty, confidence, and self-love. The other very interesting campaign, again, I remember another very interesting social media campaign, which was "Lose Head, Not Weight." It was started by an author called Virgie Tover and a leading expert on fat discrimination and body image. She herself lives by this philosophy, and in many instances, this has guided her work as an activist and lecturer. A series of lectures, which I encourage all of you to, take a look at a few of them. And the message is very clear: that love yourself, be comfortable with yourself as you are, face the world. The other very interesting one that I remember, again, was started by a British member of parliament in coordination with YMCA, England and Wales. And also famous beauty brand Dove was a partner in this in 2014, Be Real campaign. So the campaign focused on main aspects to help youth defeat their contention. It focused on three issues: real education, real health, and real diversity. Education, which refers to helping children at grassroots level. Real health, to prioritize a healthy living over simply, weights, appearances, makeup. And real diversity, focusing on influence of the media and promoting how a diverse society looks like. it aimed to detach us from a fake sense of beauty and bring us into an area of acceptance where we are comfortable with ourselves, comfortable with people around us. We don't judge them. Neither do we judge ourselves. The other, the last campaign that I'll discuss about, which was really an eye-opener, I'll say. Hashtag was Who Made My Clothes. Now, a few years back, if you remember, people from all across the world came together to join hands against a common force. So there's an instance in 2013, a very unfortunate instance in our neighboring country, Bangladesh, about a garments factory collapse. If I remember correctly, the name was Rana Plaza Factory, 2013. And unfortunately, a lot of people, a lot of workers, innocent workers, they lost their lives. Working conditions were not desirable. And in many instances, workers were overworked, there were no proper fire exits, etc., etc. So, but the good part is that people from around the world who were earlier completely immune to this, they never bothered about where their clothes are coming from. The only thing they cared about was quality and price point and the brand that they're wearing. They became conscious about the fact that who are those who are actually working on their clothes? And in what kind of conditions are they working in? And this movement not only attacked fast fashion, but at the same time, it put huge pressure on global corporates to ensure that they not only focus on optimizing their profits, but also ensure that their suppliers, their vendors, and millions of workers who are working with them get a healthy and respectable lifestyle. So in one word, it gave more power and self-esteem to actual people in the grassroots who are making our clothes. So I think if we sum it up, few of this. So one thing is very clear. The message is loud and clear that each one of us, we are beautiful, we are capable and self-sufficient no matter what. And this is the message that we need to pass on to our children, to our next generation as well, so that they're comfortable with themselves. Before I end, I'll end with another very beautiful quote and small incident about Van Gogh, Vincent Van Gogh. One of the most, I'll say, famous painters that the world has ever seen. He also struggled with self-doubt and behavioral issues. And the magnitude of issues was such that it forced him to seek help, get admitted to institutions. And at one point, he even harmed himself physically. He cut off a part of his own ear. And he was known for being in constant crisis of self-doubt. But he once said, and this sentence is really beautiful, really meaningful. If you hear a voice, and to quote him, he said, if you hear a voice within you say, you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced. So I think that the best way to answer is through our work and through believing in ourselves. I thank all of you for giving me a very patient hearing. We have a very wonderful panel here today, panel of senior educators. And I'm sure they enlighten us with their views and real life experience on this wonderful topic, something which is really close to my heart. I thank all of you again. Over to you, Gauri.
Thank you, Achin. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as Achin mentioned, we do have a wonderful panel lined up for you. But before we start with the panel discussion today, a little bit about us here at Notebook. We at Notebook are an edtech platform that creates short videos pertaining to the school curriculum. This means that every topic from every subject of the school's syllabus has been converted into a series of short videos that can be used in two different phases. One is when you as a teacher are starting out a topic in your classroom, you can play one of these videos as a method of visually introducing the topic to your students. These videos are just 6 to 10 minutes in duration and take up very little of your class time while offering the right kind of material to students to generate curiosity and excitement. The second is when the student is studying at home, much later, they have access to the same videos on their personal devices, be it a laptop or a smartphone. They can watch the videos over and over again until they get a very clear understanding of the topic that you have taught. What I am going to do now is play you some short snippets of notebook videos so that you know what they exactly look like.
गांव के पास ही एक सुंदर और शक्तिशाली युवक रहता था जिसका नाम ततारा था। वह एक नेक व्यक्ति था जो सभी की सहायता करता
Well, if I complete 90 degrees anti-clockwise, I know that I will face my left side. For 180 degrees, I will face my exact opposite direction.
Hooke was an arch rival of Sir Isaac Newton back then. He claimed that Newton's theory of planetary movements was largely inspired by Hooke's work in physics, and this created a huge rift between the two scientists.
He was old and his house was untidy. His things were all jumbled together in a big heap as he did not have a cleaning lady. He found out his magic wand from under the heap and asked Roger Skunk what he wanted to smell like.
Ladies and gentlemen, those were some short snippets from notebook videos as you just now saw. We have today connected with over 3,500 schools and have had more than 44 lakh students benefit from our videos. If you head over to our website www.notebook.school or use our mobile apps for Android and iOS, you would find more than 10,000 such videos at your disposal. With that, it is now time to introduce the wonderful panelists we have with us today. We have with us Dr. Mukherjee, Principal, Army Public School, Barrackpore, Kolkata. Ma'am started her career in 1996. Her first school was Nivedita School under Ramakrishna Vivekananda Mission at Barrackpore. She started the English medium section of Ramakrishna Vivekananda Mission, Barrackpore. Being the wife of an Air Force veteran, she got the opportunity to work in many elite schools of the country, which includes APS Kolkata, DLF Public School, and Air Force Schools. She was the principal of Air Force Senior Secondary School at Hindan Sahibabad, Ghaziabad. She joined APS Barrackpore in the year 2015. She was felicitated by the then Honorable Governor of West Bengal, Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar, on 8 September 2020 at Raj Bhavan, Kolkata, and was also awarded the COA's Commendation Card in the year 2021. Ma'am, a very good evening and welcome to the panel. Next, we have with us Sister Lissy Mathew, Principal, Holy Child School, Guwahati. Ma'am has master's degree in economics from Madurai Kamaraj University, Tamil Nadu, and licentiate in educational psychology from Pontifical University, Rome. She is a member of the Salesian Sisters of Don Bosco, an international religious institute engaged in education of young people. She was born in Kerala and graduated from Kerala University. She served as teacher, assistant headmistress in Sacred Heart School, Maulai Shillong, headmistress in St. Joseph Convent School, Tezpur, principal in St. Mary's School, Maligaon, Guwahati, and principal in Holy Child School, Guwahati till date. She has attended different leadership development programs and seminars at national and international levels. Ma'am, a very good evening, and thank you so much for being here today. We also have with us Ms. Aditi Roy, Principal, Mount Columbus School, South Delhi. Ma'am graduated from Guwahati University, Assam, in zoology with a master's in entomology and environmental biology, and chose teaching as a vocation. A strong believer in the saying, the greatest effect on students' learning occurs when teachers become learners of their own teaching, has made her grow from a subject teacher to a school head in the last 26 years. Having worked her way up to a principal, running full-service schools, to setting up new schools like Greenfield Project, affiliations, accreditations, teacher trainings, academic audits, and curating students to become worthy citizens have been her forte. She is a part of different organizations and publishing houses as resource person for teacher training and workshops and school academic audit. Mount Columba School has been awarded the Promising School 2020 with a 5-star rating by PED Foundation. Ma'am is also the recipient of Principal of the Year Award 2020 by INSA and IUEF Principal of the Year 2019 Award from Global Gurus, 100 Effective Highly I beg your pardon, 100 Highly Effective Principal Award 2018, only to name a few. She holds expertise in NEP 2020, 21st Century Skills in Teaching and Learning, Outcomes Blended Learning, Flipped Classrooms, Edward G. Bono's 6 Thinking Hats, Multiple Intelligence, Bloom's Taxonomy, and so on. Ma'am, a very good evening and a warm welcome to the panel. I would kindly request all the panelists to switch on their cameras, please, and unmute themselves. And a very good evening to all of you once again.
Good evening.
Good evening, ma'am. Ma'am, I would like to start with you. Ma'am, what do you think are, how do you teach our kids in classroom the lessons of self-worth?
Should I start with?
Yes, ma'am. It's okay with you?
Okay. I've heard Michelle Obama say once, your success would be determined by your own confidence and fortitude. So, creating actually self-worthy students, for those who feel their self-worth have got a self-esteem, is actually something which, it starts at it does not start in the school. It starts from day one at home itself. How parents actually are with the kids, and how the kids grown up in the following years. We all know about the story of Thomas Alva Edison, right? And we all remember that story, that the teacher had written a letter and sent to the mother saying that your son is worthless. But the mother handled the matter so well, saying that when Edison asked, his mother said that your teacher has praised you, saying that you can do wonderful work, but you do not you don't have to go back to school. You can do it at home. And we know the rest is history, what he had done. So it's, as teachers, we need to actually understand that our work, as Philip Burrett had very effectively said, that our work would be to raise the self-worth in kids, not to take them down. And it should start with, acknowledging their accomplishment. We need to let them, make them their own choices, allow them to make their own choices, because that's very important. Normally what happens is Indian parenting, being a parent, I still say that Indian parenting is more of do this and do that. We have a strict norm, a carefully chosen path for our kids. We normally do not allow our kids to do what they feel like, because we feel we know the best about them. Undoubtedly, we all have good intentions, but most importantly, if we do not allow our kids to, every child, as a teacher, as a parent, if we do not empower them to make their own choices, we are actually doing we are doing wrong for them. We are not making them self-sufficient. And when a child is not self-sufficient, the child will not be confident. And if the child is not confident, he will not have the self-worth or self-esteem he should be having to stand in the 21st century and to actually, bloom in this century. Because this is a very fast-paced society. The times are totally different. It's moving very fast. And if we do not help students to actually grow in that way exponentially, I would say, if we do not allow the children to do so, it would be injustice on our part to the kids. We feel we are actually hand-holding them. Mollycoddling them is the other word. We are not hand-holding. We mostly mollycoddle our kids. We do not let them be as they are. So the first thing is that let us give them a free hand. Yes, free hand to what extent, right? There's a line. We know that there's a line, and we should see that, okay, the child reaches there. So this praising and acknowledging their accomplishment is one very important thing, but praising has to be a measurable act. We know that too much of praise will create an inflated self-esteem, right? It will not be a high self-esteem. It would be a inflated self-esteem. So a measurable, measurable amount of praise is extremely required. And the expectations, as teachers, as parents, we should set our expectations. We should, and it should be loud and clear. It should not be unrealistic. It should be achievable, but it should be loud and clear for the kids to know that this is what we expect from them. And when we create this self-realistic expectations for these kids, and they are aware of it, they will certainly move towards following it. We have to also encourage that the kids can have a growth mindset. Mindset, actually in Delhi, we have now we are very strongly following different mindset curriculums. Mindset curriculums here, one is, something which is called a happiness curriculum, which we are following. And because kids, I have been doing a lot of workshops, and with students, when I do these workshops, and if normally students are asked, do you love coming to school? It would generally be, a few will say, yes, we love coming to school. And many would say, we come to school because our parents would not allow otherwise. So we have to understand that kids need to be happy in their own way. As Mr. Bhattacharyya was saying, that you need to be happy in the situation, because in the way we are, we do not need to change things in a very drastic way. Of course, that creates a lot of self-worth. That creates a self-worth in yourself, that I am good enough. I don't have to change myself to become good. And if I feel that I'm not good enough, what can I do? These are the barriers I have. Can I cross them? Are they realistic? Or do I think, are they, they're not reachable? That is something which they should be actually focusing on. Students should have a sense of ownership. Whatever they do, good, bad, ugly, whatever they do, if we make them accountable for it, of course, they will take the ownership, and then they would also not do something which will rather, create an unpleasant situation. When you make things, because we don't give responsibility to kids. We feel they're too young to have any responsibility, but we can give them responsibility. And when we give them responsibility, it is a known fact that they actually show a huge amount of work, a huge progress. So, we need to focus on their strength. According to the strength, responsibilities can be given to them. Right? So focusing on the strength is extremely important. And, the other part to it is comparison. Comparison starts at home. Your brother is so good. Why can't you do this way? Mr. Sharma's son is doing such a great work. Don't embarrass us. So these are common things which students hear and grow up. In the class also, you will see a child who's not really doing well, is at the back and does not actually make an eye contact with the teacher, because the child is not confident enough to make an eye contact. And actually, even if he's enjoying the lesson, he would not let the teacher know that I'm enjoying your lesson. If he is not understanding the lesson, he would also either not let the teacher know that I'm not able to understand. So this is something, this is something which we need to focus upon. As teachers, as parents, we need to focus upon these few things. These few things actually can go a long way in creating a self-confident, not an inflated ego, but a self-confident child who can take the world in his stride.
Wonderful, ma'am. Wonderful. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would come to Lissy, ma'am, now. Ma'am, if you can just push on your video, please. Yeah. Ma'am, my question to you is the same, like, how do you teach the lessons of self-worth to your students in classrooms? And what are the determinants of self-worth in particular?
Yes. I would like to start. Good evening, all of our present here. I would like to start self-love, self-respect, self-worth. There's a reason they all start with the self. You can't find them anyone else. It is self. Self is a concept that it is not taught in the school, but it starts at home itself. In the very beginning, as a kid, in the initial stage of life of a child, the child does not distinguish between mother and self, but it is identical. But after a few months, the child understands that she or he is different from the mother. And gradually, she finds that she is growing and develop a sense of self. And as the child grows, the parents, especially the mother, help the child to grow in a a person, an individual of herself. And then all what the mother does for the child is a formation. It's a learning for the child, and she grows up in that way. And so all what the love, the care, the support, and all what the child receives from the mother especially, and both parents sure, but mainly from the mother, she grow into that, into create into an identity. And so the love, care, and support receives from the parents, and she realize in herself she's an individual, a person, and with that love and care she grows. As she grows, if she steps out of the home to go to school, she finds another world, and where she finds the teacher, certainly, the educator, the person whom she longed to see. Maybe many things were told by the parents and others, and then there is altogether another world, a society, in fact, a small society. She finds a larger society in the school, and there are many other kids. So the very first day the child steps into school, probably holding the hands of the parents, and leave that hands and get in the hand of a teacher. And the teacher's first expression, a smiling face and inviting eyes, and hello, good morning, that word will certainly make the child become more of self. That self will continue to grow. And then in that small classroom of other children, she finds herself as self, but she is different from others. So there she begins to grow that self, and the teacher begins her lessons of maybe different, primarily how to be, especially how to sit in the classroom. A child at home may be a queen, maybe parents find difficult to manage. Today, what happened, there are maybe one child or two children, the parents, they are everything. And the parents find it maybe difficult to manage. But the child who comes to classroom, among many, she finds easy or maybe difficult, but gradually she learns to be with others. And so she finds herself a self which is growing. And then the teacher teaches many lessons. And in that lessons, she identifies herself, or she also finds the difference between other and she. It is a different person. And then as she grows, she learns many lessons. And then it is the duty of the educator to teach them many things. And while teaching, the teacher will be a role model. In role model in all aspects, the child certainly looks at the teacher as a model in her way of dressing, in way of speech, in her way of communicating, and her life itself become a model. And so it is the part of the educator to be conscious of that the model she herself projects, the child will learn and she grows. And how to develop that self-esteem is that there are many ways. Certainly we can, as educators, we make them compete with others. And in all that, there is a concern for that, support the child. And so she grows into a knowledge of herself, and she learned to be an individual. Be a good role model is very, very important for an educator. Then in doing many activities along with other students, in the group activities, there it is we need to be careful to avoid judgments, harsh judgments. Instead, praise them. praising the child along with others or in front of others, it will boost their self-esteem. Focus on strength. While doing many activities, it is important that there should be an evaluative way of outlook, where we focus strength rather than weakness. Then the child will, or the children will learn to increase their self-esteem, and they really grow into that their identity. They'll find themselves what they are capable of. And so that is a great way of teaching them self-esteem, or making them grow in self-esteem, compete, or give chance to work with others. And the kids need to be helped to give. Not only they do things for themselves, but they also need to contribute to the small group and the bigger groups, and gradually to the society at large. So help them to practice self-acceptance and encourage the students, encourage the children to examine their strength and their weakness. While supporting their strength, we need to be realistic. We need to be realistic, because while praising them, only praising them may not be realistic. We need to see both sides. In a realistic approach of strength and weakness need to be made clear, but the strength need to be enhanced, or it should be praised. And focus on smaller or bigger achievements in students, that will certainly help them to enhance their self-esteem. While teaching them many things, it is important that we need to set goals for teenagers especially, and that goal should be manageable, achievable. That is need to be made clear for the students. And so they very often they will set goals which is very high, but as educators we need to train them to set goals which is achievable, and certainly seek positive experiences. Everyone can have experiences which may not be always positive. There are also negative experiences which should not hinder their growth or their self-esteem. Instead, that need to be told, it is part, we need to take it as part of life, because very often this is a reality now. What happened every time things are told, everything positive. Yes, positive is good. It has to be praised. It has to be made visible. But we cannot deny the fact that life is not always positive alone. There are also things which may be of negative or painful experiences in realities of life, which need to be pointed out, need to be made visible, and take that as part of life. We need to be realistic in helping the youngsters, especially, to grow in their self-esteem. And there is a very good practice that we need to reward the youngsters when they do good things. That will certainly enhance their self-esteem. So rewarding the youngsters, rewarding the children will really boost their self-esteem. I would like to conclude to saying that always be prepared, always be yourself, always be honest for yourself, for self-respect, self-love, and self-worth. We need to be honest. What is more important is not so much of doing, but being. To be prepared, to be yourself, to be honest oneself as educator, in order to help and develop and enhance the self-esteem of kids and youngsters. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would now come to Dr. Moitreyee Mukherjee, ma'am. A very good evening, ma'am, and a warm welcome to the panel. Just wanted to ask you this question, that what do you think are the determinants of self-worth?
Good evening to all of you present here, and thank you so very much, Kagori, to invite me in this platform. I heard all the other panelists talking about self-worth, and they are all correct in their parameters of teaching the children self-worth. So there are many things which can be called as the determinants to teach self-worth to the children. First of all, we have to teach the children that as much as anybody in this universe, the children deserve to love themselves. They deserve to have self-value before they have self-worth. There are many self-worths like self-esteem, self-compassion, self-acceptance, self-respect, self-confidence, self-love, self-care, and above all is self-worth. So there is no dearth or dearth of self-worth, and there is abundance of so many self-words. So above all, we have to teach the children the word of self-value. So what is self-value? We have to understand that. Self-value and self-worth. These are the two very related terms and are being used interchangeably. So having a sense of self-worth means you value yourself. Having a sense of self-value means that you are worthy. So the difference between these two is very minimal, but what they have to understand is that they have to feel that they are very good and they deserve to be treated with respect. Self-value is more of a behavioral than emotional term. So more about how you act towards what you value, including yourself, that how you feel about yourself compared to others. Now, all my esteemed panelists, my colleague panelists, they all talked about making the child self-confident and teaching them self-esteem. But how do we teach them? We have seen in our society, if anybody achieves something great, that means competing with others, then only they have self-worth. That means we are only teaching them that if you have the ability, if you have the effort, you put in effort, and then only you perform, and then comes your self-worth. But we also have to make them understand that every time you do not achieve anything by competing with others. There are so many good things in you. You need to value the good things that you have in you. You have to respect yourself first, and you have to nurture those good values. We have to teach the children self-care, and we need to teach the children that they need to be self-compassionate. They need to be this question of tolerance. They cannot, at times they do not tolerate themselves. As Mr. Bhattacharyya was explaining, that many children, they see that whatever the models are being shown, children, they compare themselves with the model. That means they base more on the real life than on the real life. They think that they are not worth loving because they don't possess that figure, or they are not good looking, or might be their complexion is not as fair as the models. But this is not correct. We have to teach them that these are the outside things. So what we have to boost their self-confidence, which comes from self-acceptance. They have to accept what they are, how they are, instead of what they can do. That is a different thing. If you work hard, if you have perseverance, if you have diligence, anybody can achieve any height. So that we have to consistently keep on trying. But the values you have or the good things you have, even people might say it is not good, but how you could be helpful to the society. So whether you are empathetic or not, those are the character traits. Whether you have sympathy for others or not, whether you have compassion for others or not, and you too have to have the same thing towards yourself. So we need to teach the children self-love. That is very, very important. They have to accept what they are. We have to increase their self-understanding, boost their self-acceptance, enhance the self-love, and then recognize.
Ma'am, you have to unmute yourself.
We have
please.
to, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible now? Am I audible
Absolutely.
now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have to teach the children that they need not make anyone happy. They should keep on doing their work very honestly, very diligently, and they should understand the pain of others also. Why in the school? It should start from home only. Here I have seen children, they take their parents also for granted. Might be the parents are also at fault because they are always at the service of the children and they are being provided with abundance. So abundance is also a problem these days. Children get so much that they forget to admire the things which they are getting, because these small little things make their life beautiful, make their life very important. So that also we need to teach the children. Now, children, as I said, children did not be taught to please anybody, to make somebody happy. They should be taught that you are beautiful in whatever form you are, in whatever you are beautiful in yourself and you are unique. So children have the power to respond to events and circumstances based on their internal sources, resources, resourcefulness, which are the reflection of their true value. And this value that comes from inside, from an internal measure that they have set for themselves. Now, children should also be responsible to take charge of themselves and their own circumstances and their problems. So then we can ask them to take full responsibility for everything, for whatever happens to them, without giving them any personal power and agency. They ought to acknowledge that they have the personal power to change and influence the events and circumstances in their own life. So self-worth is an emotional outlook that determines how and what one feels about oneself in comparison to other people. So according to the American Psychological Association, having high self-worth in the 21st century is the key to positive mental health and well-being. As high self-worth matters because it helps one develop coping with various skills, handle adversity, and transform the negative into positive. So it is time for the educators to put forth their conjoint endeavor to teach the children the lessons of self-worth, integrating such lessons with the core curriculum. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. My next question would be just taking away from your words, ma'am. Do you think suicides and drugs, abuse, and different other juvenile disturbances are all of these fallouts of low self-worth in the kids?
Not always. As I said, that abundance is a problem with the children, Why he's having that and I'm not having this? Why is it that she's wearing this and I cannot wear it? As I said, we are teaching the children self-worth only when they're achieving something. And this achieving comes through various competitions. And at times these competitions are not very healthy. So we need to teach children that it is not winning always, which makes you very bright and you are worth. It is that you are competing there in any form or any test or any competition, that you are participating, that you have the skill to do it. So what we need to develop among the children, the competency among the children. So because we have created such an unhealthy atmosphere everywhere we know, we only applaud the person who is getting A++ in the class, or the one, the front runner, or who's like number 1 in the class, we talk about them. It is the onus of the teachers, the educators. They need to praise the children who might not have scored very high in the marks, scored very high in the exam, but yes, they do have certain good qualities which will actually make them also proud, and that will actually help the society in the long run. So if we can start inculcating such values in the children, and if we can teach the children that it's not always winning, your participation is more important. I think this are the fallouts of not low self-esteem, but what we can call is that I'm losing out. They think that I'm a loser. So it not sometimes not doesn't come from low esteem, but lack of self-love and lack of self-care. That is my take of the situation.
Thank you, ma'am. Wonderful. I would come to Aditi, ma'am, next. Ma'am, my same question to you. Like, do you think all these juvenile disturbances are followed of low self-worth?
See, I would agree with Dr. Mukherjee, where she says that it's not always. You know,
Abundance,
yes, not always. Why I say this? I've just read somewhere. I mean, I came across an article where, you know, kids, these young girls, or those who are just out of their, you know, teenage years, or just stepping into adulthood. It's more of a, you know, as you said, an adrenaline rush also. They need at times where that feel-good factor is there. It's no pressure. It's not low self-esteem, not lack of self-worth. It is just at times they get into this juvenile disturbances, like in drugs, like in, you might say that, you know, other forms which would not sound very good in this forum, like, you know, being escorts or something, just for being, just to feel the, you know, how different it is.
Yes, absolutely.
They do not need, it's not that they need to earn that money, or they need to, you know, focus on that. They come from affluent background, they've got everything. In spite of that, they are going in that direction, is just a mindset. You know, we are not able to, because and over last 2 years, it's the mental setup of students which we are looking into, and I can find that there's a lot of gap. 2019 or early 20, when the students, you know, stay back, from when they stayed back at home to now when they're coming to school, we see a huge gap. There's not a learning gap. I'm talking about a behavioral gap as well. So that is not at all related always to self-esteem. Yes, of course, in certain cases, we find that, you know, kids, because they are so poor at problem solving, a little bit of problem and they just flip, and then the suicides or all these other kinds of things come into. So, you know, maybe we are at fault at places, you know, as parent, as teachers, we are not able to actually give them the skills which are required for this particular century. One is this problem solving skills, because we are giving them easy access to everything, a shortcut, which in Hindi we say as jugaad. You know, the Indian entire diaspora is somewhere into jugaad. They do something or the other so that things are a little easy. Things come out very easily. That is what we are doing wrong. We are not letting students actually solve a problem. I mean, I read in the newspaper a few days back that a very, very intelligent child was into the medical college, but did not score a certain percentage and hung himself. What a loss for the entire country. This kid would have been a great doctor and served the nation. And because he couldn't manage, you know, the emotional part of the thing, could not have, you know, felt that, okay, I am worth, even if I've not got that percentage, maybe I might work hard, or even if I do not, I mean, as I'm capable, because we should, that's why we have to set the bar somewhere which is achievable. Let us not, you know, it has to be individualized. Do not make it a thumb rule that it has to be 90%, 100%. This percentage game has also spoiled a lot of things. Education is more of a percentage, not of the knowledge. So it's not always, you know, low self-esteem or feeling worthless or being, you know, that not having really that self-worth or that self-love, as ma'am just now said, that lack of self-love, but one yes, to experience something different, which can, you know, let's see what really, you know, gives me a great high. High in the sense, I'm not talking in that, literal form, but I'm just saying that, okay, what is little different from what is now is that to experience that new thing. And maybe, yes, when I'm not able to solve a problem, I do not seek help from someone, because we have been constantly saying to kids that if you have a problem, come to us, seek help. Do not try to, do otherwise. So that is very important. When we are able to reach to each and every child, saying that please seek help, come to us, we are there and we are going to understand you. But this is easy said than done, because normally we are extremely judgmental population. We are very judgmental. For everything we judge. We judge for everything. A child, actually not having something, when we mark something that this is how it has to be, a child has not done that way, we do not see the intent going into it. We just see the outcome, and we are judgmental, and we are judgmental for everything. That actually is, not helping us, get developing 21st century learners. Not at all. It's not really helping unless we as adults, change this mindset of being judgmental. We will not be able to get, mentally sane and strong in kids for the next generation.
Wonderful, ma'am. Thank you so much. My last question to the panel is, we will see the flip side of the coin. Like, is too much of self-worth negative for the kids? Maybe we can start with Lissy, ma'am, please.
This is for whom the question is?
Ma'am, any one of you can go. If Lissy ma'am can deliberate on this.
Yes, Lissy ma'am, yes.
Yes. I would say too much of self-esteem, it cannot be harmful. It cannot be harmful, but I would suggest it should be realistic instead of too much. Let us avoid the word probably too much, but a healthy praise of children is always good, and it will enhance their self-esteem, and they feel good. Feeling good will really bring about a positive way of behavior, as well as it will positively influence their friends and to the whole group as well. So it is, I would not say it is negative, but we need to be realistic. We need to be realistic because we need to show the kids, the children, especially teenagers, the realistic view. Certain things are good, certain things are not so good. So we need to help them to make the choice. A choice, a responsible choice need to be made. That is the part of the educators, to help them to make a choice.
Thank you, ma'am. Aditi ma'am, if you can just take the same question, please. Like, is too much of self-worth negative for them?
I feel, see, too much self-worth in sense, yes, abundance creates too much of self-worth, because they then forget that this abundance which I'm getting, because we are dealing with kids, we are not dealing with adults, where adults itself forget that, okay, too much self-worth is not really taking you anywhere. Here, these are kids. We are talking about adolescents normally. So when this abundance come to them without being, actually needed in the places they are, it might create an inflated self-worth. We call it, we do not call it as, a good self-worth, or maybe, positive self-worth. That's not a positive thing. That can be at times a negative part also. At times, I'm, pressing on the word at times, because you should be able to, if a person who has got too much of self-worth, where it means not too much of self-worth here is like inflated. I am a student, but I feel, I can really, behave in such a way where I do not behave like a student. And, teachers, mostly we have seen in different parts of the country where students have done things which are not fit for a student's, age. They're not age appropriate. So we need to understand that, yes, inflated self-worth is harmful. And if inflated is equivalent to too much, I would say yes, at times it is harmful, because we need to make the students understand that you are still kids. You have a long way to go. You need to actually balance it. You have a lot of self-love. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. You feel you're worth it. That's wonderful. But do not mistake it to be arrogant. You know, too much of this thing might create too much of inflated self-worth, might create arrogance also, because again we are we are looking at kids, we are not looking at adults. So it should be separated out. Yeah,
absolutely. Moitreyee, ma'am, if you can just take the same question and deliberate, please.
What Aditi ma'am said, I totally agree with her. See, too much of self-worth leads to self-ego. And when your ego is hurt, then you feel depressed, because children cannot take it if something negative is told to them. But it's not negative to put them down, it's to correct them. That the children should be taught very clearly, that we are not always trying, as educators or your teachers are not trying to find faults in you. We are trying to find the learning gaps in you. So behavioral gaps in you. So children generally, the adolescent children, they get swayed away by glamour, you can say, or by everything, because abundance is a problem with the children nowadays. So, and the irony, you know what? The children judge themselves by the judgment of others. They cannot judge themselves actually. They will praise themselves. They will think that they're beautiful. They think they are intelligent, and they have self-worth only when they are being praised by others. So this we have to again inculcate in the children, that you have to have that self-confidence. Yes, I'm worth. You have to value yourself. As I said, you have to be kind towards yourself. You have to be considerate towards yourself, but not too much. You should know your limitations as well. So it is our duty, the duty of the parents, the duty of the teachers, to tell them that yes, you do everything, but within a limit. And we should also check their attitude. I mean, what we can say as a reality check should be given to the children time to time. That's all from my side.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We had a wonderful discussion, I must say. And thanks to all of you. Achin, just welcome back for the vote of thanks.
I think really, really wonderful discussion, very seamless. Burrett sir, thank you as always for giving us a great start. And also I completely agree with the fact that, yes, we need to ensure that we we help children in developing self-worth in their childhood itself. We inculcate the culture of self-confidence and self-worth, which is so important. Thank you so much for your, I think, great advices.
Thank
Sister
you.
Mathew.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you.
Sister Mathew, thank you so much. I think some great points you made, including the fact that self starts at home. We couldn't agree more. And the fact that honesty is so important, whether it be self-respect or self-love, but at the end of the day, it all flows from honesty. So again, no, I completely agree on that. Dr. Mukherjee, thank you so much, ma'am, for being a part of this gathering, for enlightening all of us with your beautiful thoughts. And
thank you so much. Thanks too.
Thank you, ma'am. And the importance of self-value that you stressed on is indeed very important. I completely agree on that. And also the fact that it's not always about winning, but the fact that the culture of participating, the fact that a child is taking the initiative, showing their courage in participating, and the whole endeavor, the whole objective has to be competing with oneself and being better than how we are. So it's not always about winning, coming first, or beating someone else. That's the second part. So I think self-worth, while developing self-worth always is not about getting a podium finish. That again is the wrong way of looking at it. So I completely agree with you on, ma'am. I agree with you on that, ma'am. That is not always about winning. Thank you so much. Aditi, ma'am, thank you again. I think some wonderful advices. First of all, last 2 years of the pandemic, what it has done to all of us, especially with children being at home, I think you stressed on a very important gap, the behavioral gap. So I agree that teachers have done a great work, online classes, studying at home. And honestly speaking, teachers throughout the country, throughout the world have ensured that children didn't lose a precious academic year. That's a huge contribution, no doubt about it. But the fact that there has been a behavioral gap, and I'm sure that there are challenges, there are huge challenges on the ground that each day our esteemed educators are facing and overcoming. So I think on that note, it has been a great evening, and I'm sure members of our esteemed audience gained as well from these beautiful insights. We look forward to your continued support in the sessions to come. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.